Hello there, it is Nick Zangl coming to you live from California, USA on this Thursday, which means last night we had a new episode of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. It was episode 4 of season 11, and we're going to get into a live recap and react right away. But first, I want to say hi to everyone who is here watching/listening live on YouTube at 6 p.m. Pacific time, my time, Los Angeles. And if you are here live, make sure to leave your comments throughout. I'm going to be reading them periodically throughout the recap and react. If you are listening or watching either on Rumble or you're listening on a podcasting platform to the replay or even on YouTube, then make sure to say hi in the comment section as well. Let's see. Azzy is here. Betty Cooper's here. Violet, I see your comments. I see UC Boss. I'm so glad you are doing, or I'm so glad to see you back. I missed you too, because I'm used to seeing you in the comments all the time. So let me know if everything sounds good. If it sounds good, if the mic is too hot or not, if I'm too close, let me know. And I'll wait for a thumbs up or you're all good in the comments, and then I will proceed. Let me get my stuff ready here. I know some people listen and they're not next to the chat, so if you can't be there right away, let me know. But let me know if it's all good in the chat. All right. I will get started then. All right. So this episode, we picked up with the first act, which was actually the... Okay, it's all good. Perfect. Thank you, Betty. All right. So we picked up where last episode left off, which was Sutton bringing Crystal, who they both have had a rough start when they're in their friendship, bringing her coat, and you see this pictured here, to her room at the end of the night because she left it on the sofa. Granted, they just had another incident where things were blown out of, in my opinion, blown out of proportion, and so this is where the episode picks up. And what's interesting about this is when I was watching, I'm like, why did they just cut away and not show us? Well, we actually get left hanging, figuring out what happens here until the end of the episode. So you're going to have to stay tuned until the end if you want to know what happened in that room and the fallout from that, because there was kind of a delayed reaction by Crystal. So we'll get into that. But so after the intro of the their taglines, and then it's the next morning, and we get this picture of the home that they were standing in. And if you've been listening and watching every recap I've done so far, you know that I think it was last week or the week before, I was kind of speculating and guessing on how they got this house and what the circumstances around it were. Did they get it for free? Was it an executive at NBC's house or whatnot? And clearly here you see it was an Airbnb Luxe. I don't know where I missed that or if they showed it before, but for some reason I missed it in the last few episodes. But anyways, answers my questions and speculations about what was happening with that. But I had no idea Airbnb Luxe was a thing. I've used Airbnb before, but obviously maybe I'm just not of that status in the world to even be considering Airbnb Luxe. But anyways, that answers some of our questions. But then we get into a retelling, sort of where the night before left off. But we don't get Crystal really telling people about or explaining how she felt when Sutton came into her room with her coat. And so it's, again, a delayed reaction, but you'll understand at the end why. So we get everyone here but Sutton and Kathy. They're kind of just discussing the morning. And Garcelle continues to defend her friend Sutton as Erika defends Crystal. And you can see here, Erika was kind of comforting Crystal, saying that she doesn't think that the heat that Crystal is getting is justified. And so, but what we know is not very many of the girls actually know what happened between Crystal, Sutton, and Kyle in the bar area 2 nights before. And so that's going to unravel this episode as well. But Lisa Rinna then says she thinks that Sutton is harmless, and she kind of agrees with Garcelle about something going on underneath the surface with Sutton, which may be why she's kind of overreacting or making things out to be bigger than they are when it comes to Crystal. So then we get them eating breakfast with Kyle, Lisa, Erika, and then Kyle, Lisa, and Erika and others go and get ready for the day. And Lisa says she wants to check in on Sutton. So we see Sutton and Lisa meeting up in Sutton's room, and you see the face roller that Sutton was using. She said it helped her not cry and kind of de-stressed her, which it's kind of funny and it's kind of relatable, I would say. But Sutton tells Lisa that she was angry about the night before at the table where they were texting each other this inside joke, and Sutton was the only one that was left out, even though she was not the butt of the joke. I think all of us as humans, if you're at a table with friends, no matter who you are, what you look like, if you're a guy or girl, if everyone has an inside joke or they're doing some prank and you're the only one not in on it, it's easily able to be taken as you might be the butt of the joke. But she admitted, Sutton did, that she was paranoid as a result of her being left out. And then Kyle comes in and joins the conversation, and they try to talk sense into Sutton, Lisa and Kyle. And Kyle kind of doubles down on what she said the night before, which is, Sutton, you were kind of acting a little irrational. And she says it to her face. And then Sutton kind of jokingly brings out a list. And she's like, I'm going to add irrational to the list of names people have called me. And then we get into a montage with Lisa Rinna's confessional of all the names that Lisa Rinna has been called on the show, which I think it's funny that she can be self-deprecating about it, but she hasn't really changed that much. So I'm sure there'll be more names coming up that Lisa Rinna will be called. So then we see Garcelle and Crystal, and I'll get to your live chats in a few seconds after this first act, but usually the first act is kind of the longest, the beginning. But we see Crystal and Garcelle going out on the town for coffee in the morning. So they wanted to go into town and explore Lake Tahoe. As you can see, it was a crisp October morning in Tahoe. And now we finally get to hear Crystal catch up Garcelle on what happened the night before at the bar when Crystal and Sutton disagreed on the race conversation and the phrase, I don't see color. Granted, the next morning, the morning before this one, Sutton and Crystal seem to have cleared the air. But of course, it's going to continue to unravel. Because up until now, Garcelle hasn't really been filled in on what her friend Sutton, what happened with her and Crystal and Kyle, the way we have, because we saw it firsthand, which is obviously our advantage as viewers. But Crystal said that Sutton was saying we are all the same and we are all equal, which from my vantage point, and if you watch the show, let me know if you agree or disagree, that is not an accurate retelling of what Sutton said to Crystal. Because Sutton was saying she treats everyone equal despite the differences in race and culture and look. So based on what Garcelle was being told by Crystal at this coffee date before the day's activities and before everyone is kind of up and ready, Garcelle seemed to agree with Crystal and her interpretation, which in my opinion was not really what happened. So this to me was another red flag regarding Crystal and kind of her interpretation of things and how she is not completely innocent in what is going on with her and Sutton. So then the last part of this act, we get to Lisa doing yoga, Lisa Rinna doing yoga on the deck, and saying, before she got there, she actually left the room with Kyle and Sutton and said she's going to continue to use the word Sutnam. And it kind of sounds like Sutton, but I don't know if she meant as kind of like a play on words or whatnot, but I had to look up the meaning of this because Lisa Rinna didn't tell us on the show, and Kyle said she's a yogi and she's never heard that word. So I looked up and I had to figure it out and kind of do a little search, but it means true identity, meaning sut meaning true and nam meaning identity. I found that from yogatimes.com article saying that was titled, What is the meaning of Sutnam or Sutnam, whatever the pronunciation is. So I'll leave that link in the description after we're done. But anyways, so Kyle and Sutton are still talking in her room. So they're basically flashing back between Kyle and Sutton in their room, and Garcelle and Crystal at coffee. And Kyle says to Sutton, "You need to apologize." And Sutton says, and I agree, "Apologize for what? I'm not sorry for what I did or what I said." And then we cut to Crystal saying she doesn't feel the need that she doesn't feel she needs an apology from anyone. She just wants to be cool with Sutton and that they don't need to be best friends. And then Garcelle kind of scares Crystal, as Crystal said, by saying, "Oh, it'll unravel some more and that the worst isn't yet to come," basically. And so table that phrase from Garcelle for later, because I think it's important to the overall arc of this episode. So now before we get into Act 2, let me see what you guys are saying. All right. Okay, we're all just chatting to see where we're all from. Anne E says, "Hi, Nick." Hello, Annie. Thanks for being here live. Let's see. Betty Cooper. All right. Everyone looks good. Hannah Alexander, hello. Thank you for being here live. Violet says, let me see. Actually, let me show your comment. Yay, finally, I remembered to do this. Violet says, "I heard yoga is good, but I'm not a fan of meditation for some reason. I've recently made a self-care list, though." Speaking of that, I think that's a great point. I'm actually the opposite. Well, I've tried yoga and I've tried meditation. Personally, like dedicating the time to both of those or either of those, one, yoga is just too expensive for me at this point. I'd rather just work out in my home and do like weights or like body weight stuff and go for a walk or whatnot. That's a little more relaxing to me. As far as meditation, I can do it for like a few minutes, but there's some other things that relax me more than meditating. So I think to each his own. But anyways, I like a good stretch also. But anyways, thank you so much for commenting, everyone. So if you guys have any more thoughts, leave them in the chat, and I can bring them up on screen if you like. All right, let's move on to Act 2. So this picks up with everyone back in the house, all ready for the day's activities to go on a boat on Lake Tahoe. Sutton and Crystal actually say hello to each other, and then they start walking on the dock, as you see here, and we get a little bit of a flashback montage of all the good and the bad boat instances from seasons past from Beverly Hills. As they talk about, as they're walking the dock, most of the memories on boats are bad memories, and you'll have to watch the episode to get some of those flashbacks, but some of them are actually pretty iconic Housewives moments from any franchise. So now we are on the boat, drinks in hand, and Garcelle and Erika are talking. And Garcelle asks Erika if she had talked to her husband Tom. She says yes, he is at the law firm working really hard. He's all good, and that he loves it. And Garcelle says it's probably what keeps him going because he loves it so much and he's dedicated his life to becoming a lawyer. Erika confirms yes, he loves being a lawyer. He dedicated his life to that. You might not think that's anything. You might think it's a casual conversation, but they put it in for a reason because we know what's around the corner. Okay, then we have a funny part, which is there's a seagull circling the group on the boat and trying to land on the boat somewhere for whatever reason, and they all freak out. But Kathy shows that she is not a drama queen, and she is, again, the balancing act or the balance to the group, and she kind of just makes fun of them in their confessional for being overly dramatic about a bird and telling them to calm down. Then we have some more drama, if you will, and I think it's a little bit of a pot stirring situation because Sutton was kind of sitting on the end by herself a little bit. There was a chair between her and Kathy Hilton. And in this picture, you can see she has a little bit of a smirk on her face, but you can't really tell because she has the glasses on. But Dorit and Erika are talking to each other in the other part of the boat, kind of whispering, "It looks like Sutton's about to cry." And then Dorit's like, "I'm a little nervous because when I know someone's about to cry or get emotional or kind of lash out, then it makes me nervous." And Erika then outwardly asks Sutton, "Is everything okay?" Like in front of everybody. And Sutton says she's fine, but Kathy says something that I think is pretty relatable and pretty common to most people, which is that if I'm okay, and then you start asking me, "Are you okay?" kind of implying that I look like I'm distressed or something, then it makes me not okay and it makes me a little more self-conscious. And so I think on that part, either Erika and Dorit were just misreading the situation because they're not fully privy to everything, because as you know, we've been seeing more than they have. But it seemed a little pot stirry to me, but we'll see if that turns into anything. So then we have Crystal and Sutton. They go aside to talk again for, like, I think this is the third time now they've gone aside and talked. We had them after that first night at the bar. We had them on the van ride back from the activity from the day before, where they were sharing about their families and kind of growing closer in that front. And now we have this second morning, I should say, of them trying to hash things out again. And as Sutton is sharing her feelings on how she felt regarding Crystal from the night before at dinner, Crystal was kind of being a little dismissive and kind of closed off and smirking a little and appearing to think that the conversation was pointless or was kind of uninterested. And Crystal then comes out after Sutton kind of says, like, this isn't funny, like, why are you being sarcastic and whatnot, or whatever. And Crystal basically just unleashes and just says, I have no reason to trust you at this point. You've only shown me crazy. You're irrational. You're manic. And to me, that was a little bit, or clearly she was holding that in and she wasn't being that mean, but that was kind of an overboard reaction in my opinion. Of course, Sutton isn't helping her cause by overreacting in her own right, in my opinion, but it was kind of a quick rush to judgment and kind of harsh and final almost, the way Crystal was communicating that to Sutton. And so, and considering they just met. So that was where we end that act and they go to commercial. But let me see what everyone's saying. As he says, I love meditating. Violet says, okay, thank you for expanding that. Awesome. Honestly, I'm glad she's not that kind of a drama person, because that wouldn't have been good. Let's see. Because you don't want to react about it. Yes. Violet says, it's so sad to see how people hurt others through emotions. Yeah, and in the next act, you will see kind of, they'll explain, or Sutton will explain a little more. Let's see. Anne E says, they're pressuring her to cry. Are you talking about Sutton or Crystal? Because I think they are kind of pushing Sutton a little bit. It seems like the only person on her side is Garcelle, and that's her friend, obviously, but yeah. Betty Cooper says that's so wrong. Yes. UC Boss says, where are you streaming besides here? I only stream live on YouTube during the first play, and then I upload the replay to Rumble, which is another video platform, and then the audio to podcasting platforms. I have them on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor, which is where you can find all the other places that the audio is available. But I'll plug my email list, which is in the description now in every video. You can sign up there and you'll get links to all of them and all the links to all my channels and whatnot on any platform I'm on. So anyways, let's get into the next part, which is Act 3, which is Crystal and them again. We pick up where we left off. And like I said, Crystal tells Sutton that she's only shown her crazy, which from what we've seen so far, for the most part, Sutton is being a little crazy or a little irrational or a little too emotional. But it's almost like Crystal is dismissing the conversations that we've seen and witnessed, where they've had multiple occasions where they've connected on a calmer front and gotten to know each other a little deeper. So I don't think it's right or correct that Crystal is saying that only Sutton has shown her crazy. So that was just my interpretation. But Sutton then explains what other girls have kind of been speculating about regarding some underlying emotional things happening. And it appears that, and Sutton reveals this, that her having to leave her forever home that she thought she was going to be in forever was harder than she thought emotionally. And she apologized to Crystal for projecting some of her underlying issues emotionally onto Crystal based on their issue that came up. And then they agree to take baby steps forward in their friendship, which I think is great. But I agree with Crystal that there are no excuses for projecting your stuff onto other people. It's just there are reasons that it happens. Also, during this, Sutton explains that she is harder to get to know than the others, and to explain why Crystal says that they're having a rougher start than the other girls, and kind of Sutton is explaining there's a reason for this because I'm naturally just someone who is harder to get to know. So there was that. And then again, Crystal seems to be, well, overall, Crystal, I think, seems to be so focused on the race aspect of what was going on. And that part has actually been cleared up between them. And so now she is basically violating, I would say, these other current socially insensitive things like ageism and mental health ableism by last episode calling Sutton a generation above her and outdated in her thoughts and beliefs. And then right now she was basically weaponizing and calling her crazy. And so now Sutton may be crazy and may be a little older than Crystal, but the problem for Crystal is she has stepped into that woke world and that policing and kind of calling people out. But now the thing is, it's going to be turned on her because she stepped into that. They're going to be more closely watching her and scrutinizing her for every little thing. And her pointing out Sutton's craziness and age, I think, is going to eventually blow up in Crystal's face, whether it be the other girls on the show or Sutton will bring it up as later on and kind of throw it back in Crystal's face, or it'll come up in the reunion, hopefully, when Andy is trying to be as fair as possible to all the girls, which I think he ends up doing a pretty good job to kind of address some of the controversy around the show, unless I'm the only one who's seen this, but I highly doubt that. But I have a feeling if Crystal is confronted or reacts or is confronted with the same level of seriousness of accusations that Sutton is being accused of by Crystal, I have a feeling Crystal would react in a similar way because, like I've been saying this whole time, you can't expect someone to not react if you're attacking their character as far as accusing them of being racially insensitive or racist. Or in Crystal's case, if she's being accused of being ableist and ageist, I'm pretty sure she won't like that. So, unless Crystal thinks ageism and ableism are okay to use as justification for combating her perception of racism, or in this situation, her perception of Sutton being a little racially insensitive. So that was this. And one more thing is, this further supports my theory of people forcing conversations and stretching situations to fit a certain narrative for whatever the intended outcome is besides what they're saying, leading to more of that problem as kind of this self-fulfilling prophecy. Because when you are shoving certain conversations like diversity or race down people's throats, or always throwing it at them and not giving them a chance to kind of like sit back and digest it, you start turning everyone into the thing that you don't like, who weren't even that before, but you're almost forcing them to do it if you're just shoving it down their throat and accusing them of things that there's very little, if any, basis for. And so this kind of, all of a sudden, this change in rules, for instance, the change from equality as the goal to equity, which I still, in my opinion, don't believe those are compatible ideas. You can't expect there to not be some blowback as people are adjusting. Give me 1 second for a quick. All right. And we're almost done with this act, but I will get to your chats in a few seconds. So they get back home, and the chef makes them donuts and cookies, and surprisingly, almost all of them tried the donuts and cookies. Then we have here Dorit and Kyle playing with, as Dorit says, big and small balls, of which Kyle may have experience with small balls, according to Dorit, which is a bocce ball court in the back. And then we get a reminder of Dorit's competitiveness. Then, as the girls are getting ready for the last night dinner, Garcelle, Lisa, and Kathy are making drinks, and then Sutton shows up in those $2,000 slippers that we made fun of last time, adding to the list of ridiculous outfits for this season so far. And here's a more close-up picture of it, but I will add that in later. Then they're all kind of doing pre-dinner drinks, and Kyle says that her nose stitches are getting itchy because she has stitches in there from her nose job, which makes me a little cringe. And the question comes up from Garcelle of, oh, has anyone else hasn't had a nose job? And to which Erika and Kathy admit to having nose jobs. And Erika says that she's okay with that question as long as the person asking it is willing to be asked the same question. And Erika says, I will ask you, and if I think your plastic surgery work is bad, I will give you some numbers for better surgeons. Then we get Kyle throwing shade at Dorit, who didn't admit to having a nose job, but they showed, in a shady fashion, a side-by-side of Dorit in her younger years and Dorit now, and basically leading us to assume that Dorit has had nose work. And then we leave off this act by learning that Crystal is not coming to dinner for some reason, which we will learn in a few seconds. So let me get to your chats. All right. Let's see here. UC Boss says, I've never heard of Rumble. It's a video YouTube alternative. It's pretty new still. They're based in Canada, I believe, but it's just kind of a backup for me just in case for whatever reason YouTube just goes, hey, we don't like you anymore, bye. So I just have that all as backup just in case. But some people like to watch there who already are there, so there's that. UC Boss says, okay, thanks for being here, UC Boss. I will look forward to your email. Let's see. I don't know where you are talking about Hannah Alexander. You're talking about Twitch. UC Boss says, I hate Twitch. A buffer is bad. Yeah, I haven't tried Twitch yet. Not sure if I'll go there. Some people don't like Spotify. Okay, you're done complaining. Okay. And yes, it's just my name on all platforms. If you want to know where links to them, I don't link them in my descriptions on any platform because I think the platforms don't necessarily like when you're trying to get people off the platform. But anyways, sign up for the email list and you'll get links to all those accounts. If not, then search my name and I have the same profile picture on all of them. So it should be easy to find and it should have the same type of episodes and names and whatnot and graphics. So there's that. All right. Betty Cooper says, Coco is cute. I don't know who Coco is. Okay. Heather Nicole says, OMG, the slippers. Yeah, they're $2,000. We learned that, I think, last episode or the one before. Don't know why. They must be made of some exotic animal. I don't know, but it's kind of funny because Sutton wore them to kind of make fun of everyone or to kind of throw it in everybody's face because they kind of made fun of her for that. But anyways, I will not forget to check my email. Don't worry. All right. Let's move on to act number 4. So we learned that Crystal texted Garcelle, I'm losing my shit a little, meaning she's not coming to dinner. And Sutton then speaks up about why she was upset last night, which is what we heard her tell Crystal. So stories are lining up. And she apologizes to everyone for putting them through her emotional kind of situation, the way she apologized to Crystal. And Dorit in her confessional says she's forgiving because we've seen Sutton make mistakes and she learns from them and we're all human. And I think that's good message to push. Then Sutton says she doesn't know Crystal, but she is going to love her anyway. And Kathy, Crystal's friend, says yes, of course. So it sounds like they're coming to a point where they're kind of leveling out their their interactions with each other. But now I think back to what Garcelle told Crystal at their coffee date earlier in the episode, where Garcelle told her, oh, it'll unravel more or whatnot. And maybe that added to Crystal's anxiety, where maybe she wasn't as worried before the boat ride, and then it kind of festered in her mind and led her to kind of want to avoid a dinner again, because last night's dinner led to some crazy stuff. So then Lisa Rinna speaks up, and this is where it got kind of weird. And she kind of was speaking up, starting normal about everyone having their moments, but working through things. Garcelle agrees with Lisa about her making mistakes last year. Lisa Rinna then shares her learning experience from the last season with Denise Richards. Then Lisa Rinna goes into this story about her husband from a long time ago, whose friend he had just gone to drinks with, then left and went and raped another woman. And everyone at the table was like, where is this going? And that guy was convicted of rape. He went to jail. He served time. But the story was that Harry, Lisa's husband, could not support that friend even after and during his time serving, meaning his other friends wanted to go visit the other friend in jail to kind of give him support and help him through this. And Harry Hamlin decided not to. This story was Lisa's way of explaining why she could not blindly support her friend Denise last year regarding that whole situation around things sexually happening between Denise and some other people in the group and whatnot, and about secrets that Lisa Rinna knows that she said she will take to the grave, but she was kind of using this as defense of people who were accusing her of being a bad friend last year regarding Denise. And now I agree with Garcelle on her analysis of this whole situation, which is that sometimes it is okay to say nothing. And Garcelle, I think, is right in that Lisa may be overcompensating with that Denise situation at the time by trying to kind of not bait Denise, but kind of reach Denise into saying more than she did, instead of just being quiet and just sitting there as a friend in support of her and not stoking the flames anymore, even if that was not her intention. But I think this being brought up by Lisa and them showing it is important because it's not giving others that false sense of security with Lisa Rinna, who has a sketchy track record with this group. All right. Let's see what everyone's saying before we get into the second to last act. Yeah, $2,000, that's insane. Yeah, but when you think about Sutton's lifestyle, she's spending $20,000 a month on rent while her house is being renovated, and she's paying that to Kyle Richards, who's the other girl in the group. So I guess it's all relative. I mean, $2,000 if you're spending $20,000 on rent every month is what, 10% of your rent. So you can do the math on 10% of what you pay for rent, and maybe it sounds a little more reasonable. I don't know. All right. Let's go to Act 5. So they're at dinner. It's over. And everyone heads to the game room, which has like pool tables, and it has a pool and I think a bowling lane and everything. It's crazy beyond what I'll probably ever have. But Garcelle and Erika start talking. And Erika calls Garcelle thin, to which Garcelle says, well, I don't feel thin. I've been trying to hide my non-thinness with this blazer and this black and whatnot. And Garcelle's, oh, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors going on here. To which Erika says in her confessional that life is smoke and mirrors and no one knows everything that someone is going through. Another kind of alluding to what's about to happen in Erika's life. And so they're all playing games. And Lisa Rinna decides to jump in the pool, and it's an indoor pool, by the way, and calling the other girls pussies for not going in with her, to which Garcelle makes it a point to Lisa to explain to her what the point she was trying to make at dinner, where Lisa shared that story we just shared, which is this is her problem, is that she keeps pushing people because Lisa was in the pool going, everyone join me. And everyone's like, no. And she goes, join me. And they go, no. And she just kept egging people on. And Garcelle's like, hold on, let me make a point. This is where you take a step back and let it go. And finally, it appears that Lisa Rinna actually got the message this time. And everyone was kind of laughing, even Garcelle, and like kind of almost looking in the camera and in shock almost that she finally just got the point. And so then Sutton goes and gets in the pool with Lisa, and the other girls are playing Jenga. Then Sutton and Lisa do a synchronized swimming routine in the pool. And as far as the whole situation with Lisa Rinna and poking people, I will say personally, let me know if you're the same way, if you're different. But if someone keeps poking me or asking me to do something that I just do not want to do, and there's no reason for me to do it, or it's not the end of the world if I don't do it, I will either shut down and just be silent, or I will double down in my no and almost like never want to do it ever again because I'm just so against that thing because this one person wants me to do it so bad. And so let me know if you're that same way or not. But basically, they're all sitting now by the fire and are ironically talking about nudity. And you're probably wondering what nudity has to do with everything. Well, Erika then runs into Crystal in the hallway as they're all wrapping up for the night. Crystal comes out to say goodnight to them, and Kyle and Crystal end up talking one-on-one. And Crystal kind of catches Kyle up on what's been happening and how she's feeling and why she missed dinner. So now we learned why Crystal, or what happened the night before when Sutton went to give Crystal's coat back to her in her room. And kind of alluding to what happened at the beginning of the episode, because it appears that Crystal was more off-put by Sutton's coming into her room with the coat than she initially thought and what we initially learned, meaning it kind of festered in her, like I said before, and she had this delayed reaction to before dinner. And it kind of, I guess, coupled with everything else that went on during the day, and it probably all just kind of hit Crystal at once the whole weekend. So we learned that Crystal was naked when Sutton tried to come in and bring her her coat, and it caught Crystal off guard. And so then Kyle brings up good points on, well, why didn't you bring it up? Well, in her confessional, she says, why didn't you bring it up with Sutton on the boat? And Crystal just said it didn't come up, and that wasn't the reason that she didn't come to dinner. So to me, this was another instance of Crystal kind of misunderstanding what Sutton was saying or doing, or her gestures, but revisiting the event in a more, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, but in a more warped way, in my opinion, kind of similar to how Sutton was kind of overreacting to things. And maybe it's because of their rocky start that everything that happened after that one incident, that everything else has been amplified and made to be a little worse than it is, because they both have their guards up. But I also understand this whole thing because sometimes things are made to be worse in our heads than they really are, especially after you have a few instances where you kind of get some red flags and put your guard up, and then you don't get a break from that person or that situation, and it kind of just builds up until it comes to a head and you need to just step away. So I think it was very mature of Crystal to just dismiss herself from dinner or not go and just give herself some time. And I think that was really, really wise of her. So before I get into the last final act, let's see. Yes, yeah, Heather Nicole. Yeah, it's all relative. So, and these are Beverly Hills people, so their idea of reality is, I think, a lot different than most people, I would say. Betty Cooper says, I don't like to swim. Yeah. Heather Nicole says, I shut down and stop talking when I get poked to do something I don't want to do. Yes, I am exactly the same way. And I think it must be some survival instinct, because or maybe I'm just not trusting of people. Maybe you can fill me in on what kind of why you do that too, which is, it's almost like, are they trying to bait me into doing something like bad, or are they trying to get me? They know something is really bad, or are they going to do something to me if I don't do it? Or like, there's all these things that go through your head that give you red flags to like abort and like abandon ship. I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm not explaining that well, but let's see. Hannah says why it'll build up. Yeah, I guess you're referring to just holding things in. Betty Cooper. Oh, right. Sounds like we're all good for now. So the last and final act before we get into kind of a Q&A, live chat, whatever you want to ask or any thoughts you have, we wrap up this episode. And I forgot actually to show that Crystal and Kyle. So this was Crystal and Kyle talking, and we get to the next morning. And as others are eating breakfast, Sutton goes to Crystal, and Crystal explains that she felt her space was violated by Sutton bringing in the coat to her as she was naked, and they're still new friends, so obviously it makes it worse. And Crystal kind of gets emotional about it, and so Sutton tries to comfort her and say, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean it that way, but in Sutton's confessional, she's confused as to why Crystal thinks it was weird and creepy to knock on the door to give her her coat at the end of the night. And Sutton says, unless you were raised in a women's prison. And again, they clear the air, and it seems that they're coming back to center again for like the third time this weekend. But let me tell you, even though they've had a rough start, I think it is really refreshing to see them quickly resolve the little things as they work on the bigger issues in their new friendship. And we may be seeing it play out this way also because they are on a cast trip and they're in a confined space and they're almost being forced to confront things that maybe in real life off the show wouldn't be happening as quick. But I do think they are reacting as any humans would in this situation. So I think they're both handling it as best as they can, and it could be worse. They could be getting into a physical fight or yelling even worse things. So overall, it's probably pretty true to life. So then quickly, as the girls are in the midst of getting ready to head home, and we see them seem to be getting along and kind of just getting ready to go home, we see a quick cut to, like it's just an abrupt ending to this scene here. A quick cut to Election Day coverage almost 4 days later here in the United States from, of course, NBC's Today morning show, because Bravo owned by Comcast, which is all under NBC Universal. And another very quick cut after a few words from Hoda and Savannah, the anchors here, is we get a quick cut to the girls reacting to text messages from Erika about her filing for divorce from her husband Tom after 22 years of marriage. And then here you see Dorit, Kyle, and Lisa on FaceTime, clearly shocked about what they had just read, and rightfully so, because they were all blindsided because they were just on a trip a few days before in Lake Tahoe where they were talking about Tom and Erika with Erika. And the last words of the episode were Lisa Rinna basically saying that she thinks it's Erika and she had to do it this way. She couldn't do it in person. So overall, my take on this episode was that it was kind of a palate cleanser after a very serious, deep, friction-filled, minus the Kathy Hilton coming in and kind of balancing things out, start to the season. I mean, we're only 4 episodes in, but we've already had a cast trip. We've already had plenty of drama, and it's all going to continue to fall out from here, but we get this kind of shakeup early in the season with Erika, and of course there'll be shakeups legally later as well. But this episode seems to be kind of teasing us for what's to come, and we are entering a really deep, dark, real storyline with Erika, and I have a feeling it's going to actually help mend quicker the problems we've seen so far with the other girls, whether it be between Garcelle and Kyle and Lisa, or Sutton and Crystal. So let me know what you think of all this. If you watched, if you haven't, and you want to go back, make sure to do that. But also, let's see what everyone's saying. Azzy says, that's good. They can keep their cool so they won't fight. Yeah, that's kind of the difference, I think, between this franchise and other ones is like Jersey, Atlanta, sometimes New York, and OC has had a few scuffles, and Miami had a few. Dallas has had some. Salt Lake City, I haven't really watched that one that much. But it seems like Beverly Hills is the only one that's, well, I guess they had stuff early on with Brandy Glanville, so I guess they all have their own way of physically getting involved with each other, but it seems like Beverly Hills, they're not as physical, but there's that. Let me know if anyone has any other thoughts generally on this. Of course, Violet says, I haven't watched this show, but I appreciate you explaining the situations. Yeah. See, that's my goal with this, is to, even if you don't watch the show, we can still have conversations about some of the topics that get brought up on these shows. Because I know Housewives gets kind of, gets flack for the way women interact with each other and that representation that they have on TV. But that's part of the reality. It's like they're not one size fits all women, and they're just showing one group of friends on reality TV. So you have to take that into context as well. Hold on one second. And just as a general thing, if you're new to the channel, or if you haven't been here in a while, or you're only watching the recaps, I try to take that same energy and that same approach to every video I do. So I know on the channel, some people subscribe for certain videos, but I try to make it so no matter what I'm talking about, whether you know about the situation or not, that we can find something to talk about that's bigger than the person or the thing we're talking about. So hopefully that helps explain things. And if you want more content from the channel, make sure to click around after we end this. Let's see, Heather Nicole has another comment, but let me just get this in really quick. If you make sure to come back next Thursday for before we wrap up more comments, but come back next Thursday live at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So that's Los Angeles, California time zone, for the next episode's recap and react, which the new episodes air on Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock, 7 Central here in America. And so make sure to do that and come back, and then you can share your comments and I can show them on screen. And next week I will have some updates about the couple of weeks after that, and kind of some flexibility that needs to be on my end, but things will return to normal again in July. All right, let's see. Heather Nicole says, I think it's just awkward. If I tell you I don't want to do something and you keep asking and the answer is still no, then I just don't know what else to say and it gets awkward. Maybe that's why I shut down. Exactly. It's like, yeah. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. It's like, if I say no, doesn't that mean no? Especially in today's world where there's so many conversations around consent and all these other things. I don't think consent has a line where it's all of a sudden not okay. You know, even if you're just saying no to like hanging out with someone, if you're saying no, it means no, right? So yeah, completely get that. Okay, so let's see if anyone has any other last minute comments. What was I going to say? Oh, like I said, if you're listening on or watching the replay, either on Rumble or you're listening on a podcast platform, make sure to comment wherever you are able to, and head to the description if you would like to sign up for the free email list of mine, where you get an email notifying of the stream. Usually the streams, I will send you the link to the live stream, so that way you can set a reminder on YouTube, or you can get the links to all my social accounts and any other updates on the channel. Heather Nicole says, I'm always a couple episodes behind, but I enjoy your videos. Yes, so if you are behind on episodes and you catch up, go to the episode where I recap and react to that episode and leave a comment there. Still, I read and try to respond to as many comments as I feel like I should respond to. Some comments that aren't very nice, or that I think are looking for attention, I don't always respond to those, but I read every comment. So make sure to do that, and I will talk to you next Thursday. And if you like other videos, then there'll be other videos up before then. So, all right. Thank you everyone so much for being here on this Thursday evening. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. And until next time, I will see you in the comment section. Bye-bye.